Everyone wants to know, how can I monetize my podcast? How can I make a living from my passion? In this video, we're going to walk through 5 ways you can make money from your podcast today. Let's dive in. Hi there, Craig Hewitt here from Castos. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. In this video, I'm super excited to share with you information about how, through Castos, you can make money as a podcaster. This is a dream, right? I want to flip on the mic, flip on the camera, and make money from my content. And it really is the dream of a lot of us. Truth is, spoiler alert, it's really hard. You have to make really good content. You have to be really good at marketing promotion. The concept of like, build it and they will come and I can just make a lot of money is largely false, right? So we're going to dispel that myth here because I don't want to be selling you a false bag of goods. But let's talk about the 5 ways you can make money from your podcast starting today, and you can scale that up and ramp it over time. Let's dive in. First way you can make money from your podcast is ads, right? This is the monetization method that we all know, some of us love because it is truly passive. Through a platform like Castos and our Castos ads product, you literally turn on a button in your Castos dashboard and you start making money from ads. We dynamically insert pre-roll and post-roll ads and you start making money, right? Those are delivered and your audience listens to them. Every time your audience listens to them, you make a little bit of money. While I love this because it is literally a click of a button, there's no settings, nothing you got to sell. You don't have to talk to sponsors, anything like that. It's all done programmatically, all done through your dashboard. You don't have to do any extra work. It's the closest thing to passive income you can get from a podcast. I turned this on for a show of mine that I haven't recorded a new episode on in about 6 months. I'm already making a couple bucks a month. So I view this as like totally passive income. Is it going to pay my mortgage? Is it going to send my kids to college? No. But is it a couple bucks that I don't have otherwise? Yep, it's a great way. So it's a no-lose option. Turn on Castos ads in your dashboard, start making money today. As your show scales and you start getting into tens and hundreds of thousands of listens, this is a pretty interesting way to monetize a podcast, right? You got to think about like typical CPMs or cost per 1,000 downloads for podcasting is anywhere from say $5 to $20. I know that's a big range, but that's just what it is. Up on the $20 CPM level, it is being on a really sophisticated platform where you're paired directly with advertisers who have a high kind of synergy and affinity for you and your brand and your content and what you're putting out. The lower end is a little one-click thing where we have a pool of sponsors and advertisers that we pair automatically through a pretty sophisticated algorithm with your podcast. So that's just it. But like, think about, does my show have tens or hundreds of thousands of listens? Making money from your podcast through dynamic ad insertion gets to be a pretty interesting way. The nice thing is you don't have to do anything. It's not host-read ads. You just turn a button on and the sponsors have read the ads. They're stitched in automatically. You don't have to do anything in the editing and production process. It just happens automatically. The other really nice thing about this is you can go backfill your entire back catalog, right? So for my show, I had about 150 old episodes. I clicked a button and I started making money on all of my old episodes. Pretty cool. The next one is, I'm going to combine 2 here, but it is host-read ads and you selling sponsor inventory directly to people that you know. This is the best way to start making a good amount of money, especially from a new podcast or a niche podcast without a big audience, right? So say you have a podcast in your kind of work niche and it's super specific and you have maybe a couple hundred listens per episode. As we talked about with the ad model, you're not going to make a lot of money from dynamic ads, just not. It's not the way it's supposed to work, if you will. Dynamic ads, the first model we talked about, is really meant for entertainment-focused podcasts where you got tens or hundreds of thousands of listens per episode. But if you have a niche podcast in your kind of work vertical or something, you might have 100 listens per episode. And that's really super valuable to someone and to some company who wants to get their message in front of that exact 100 people every week. And so what you do here, the model is you put together a little media kit. You go out to these companies and you say, okay, I have a podcast. Here's my history. We're only 10 episodes in, but we have about 150 listeners each episode. We're building our email list. We have all this stuff going on to build a media brand. And you sell them a predefined package. And that could look like for 12 episodes, it's $5,000 or it's $100 an episode. And I have a 10 episode minimum. This is a really great deal for these companies to get their message in front of that 100, 150 people that you reach every week. but you got to put your sales hat on and you got to come up with a script and you got to close them. And the most important thing actually is then you record the ad. And it's what we call a host-read ad. So you would come up with the ad script with the sponsor that you sold, and you would record it and manually stitch it into your episodes. These are typically mid-roll ads, and you'll see like a lot of the best, podcasts out there, the NPRs of the world. This is how they do it, right? They have host-read ads that are either mid-roll or pre-roll, but they've gone out and they've sold a sponsor, and it's that same sponsor or set of sponsors that are rotating through all of their shows. Hands down, this is the best way to make a good amount of money on either a small audience or a new show. Third one is direct listener support. This is where real people and your audience are giving you money to continue your journey as a creator. I really like this. Like, again, this follows the NPR. They have a lot of listener supported media out there. And it's really cool because you want people to be raising their hand with their wallets and saying, hey, keep this up. I really love it. This is really helping me out. Please continue, and I want to support you as a creator in this way. Cool thing is, through Castos platform and through our Castos Commerce feature, you can do this with no code, with no extra tools. You literally turn on a button, connect your Castos account to our payment processing partner called Stripe, and you can start receiving payments either one-time or recurring donations at any amount that you want right through your Castos pre-built website. So if you want to check out an example of this, go to castos.com/commerce. Castos Commerce is a great kind of built-in native solution for accepting one-time and recurring donations from your show. Fourth way is selling your own products and services. So you might be a consultant. You might be an e-commerce company. You might be a SaaS platform like us, where we're a podcast hosting and analytics platform. And we have a whole network of podcasts we call Castos Originals. And the whole goal of all of our content is to bring awareness to our brand, to help people in the podcasting space, to educate and inspire them. And then hopefully when it's time for them to start a podcast, they say, hey, man, I hear Craig and I hear the Castos folks all the time talking about all this great stuff. They've helped me a lot as a creator. They must be a great choice for me when I want to start a podcast. And that's really, frankly, that's the goal of all of our media. It's not to make money directly from it, but for it to serve the community and help everyone level up. And then when they're ready to become a hosting customer, they might pick us. So this falls in the indirect monetization bucket, but it is using all of this media to increase awareness, brand identity, trust, and loyalty so that when people are ready to make a purchasing decision, you're their obvious choice. And the fifth one is paid placements. You might think of this as sponsored content. And it's becoming more and more popular as big brands out there are saying like, man, starting a podcast and getting traction and getting attention from all these fans and listeners is tough. Is there a way that I, as big brand X, can just kind of insert my message into a podcast? And you might say, well, Craig, this sounds a lot like an ad, right? Aren't you talking about an ad? Kind of, right? A sponsored content piece is really like an entire episode that is an ad, usually veiled as really helpful content. So I'll just say in my example, right? We're in the podcasting space. If Shure mics came to me and said, hey, Craig, I'd love to do an episode with you about how Shure mics compare to Audio-Technica compared to Rode, I would probably say, that's interesting, but I don't know that we can kind of objectively do that. And they might come back and say, hey, what if we pay you $1,000 or $5,000 or $500? You pick the number, right? The interesting thing here is kind of like when you're selling your ad inventory and having host-read ads, there's no rules. It's the Wild West. You come up with a number that is justified by what you perceive the value of your content and your audience to be. So sponsored content is a pretty interesting one. A lot less rules. It's not a one-click button in your Castos dashboard to get offers from sponsored content, but it's a pretty interesting way if you're in a really tightly defined niche to where you could have companies come to you and say, hey, we would love to do a piece of sponsored content. We would love to have an episode all about us. And you got to have some pretty strong parameters in here to say, okay, look, I'm not going to delude my show. I'm not going to sell my audience something that's not really genuine and matches up with their interests and desires and wants. And so I would urge a bit of caution here, but it is a pretty interesting way to make some pretty good money from an episode. Usually this is just one episode. Maybe it's a season or a series or something like that. But sponsored content is definitely something I would consider if you want to make money and if you have really tight alignment between your audience and your industry and potential companies or brands who might pay up for sponsored content. Okay, I hope that helps run through the 5 ways I believe you can make money from your podcast today. We'd love to hear your thoughts, experiences. Drop a comment in below with how you're making money from your show and how we can help each other level up our podcasting game. As always, if you're enjoying, like, subscribe, smash the bell, and we'll see you next time.